Good morning, my brother.
Hello, Emilio.
How are you?
Good. Good to see you. Thank you
yeah.
for doing this show, this YouTube interview show.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking me. I'm pretty excited.
Are you excited?
So some of
You're
the
nervous. You haven't seen any of these videos.
Well, parts of some of that I thought they were
Okay.
pretty nice, yeah.
So you don't know that we go through really torturous things during this.
Oh, really?
So, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what type of ministry you're currently involved in?
Yeah, so my name's Emelio Gassibe. Originally from Cape Cod, South Africa. And I serve as the youth pastor and also the associate pastor at Living Hope Family Church out in Hyannis with Pastor Eric Eskeland. And also another hat that I carry since a couple of years now is Ministry Director for Youth for Christ, Cape Cod, a ministry that we started just to reach out to kids in the community, unchurched kids from different schools across the Cape. And that's sort of just something our church has a passion for. Okay. And it just happened to be a good approach to use model, yeah.
Okay, so you're assistant pastor and you're youth pastor at Living Hope.
Yes.
And you're doing a ministry, kind of like a missions work.
Yes.
On the Cape as a whole.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
With Youth for Christ.
With Youth for Christ.
All right, tell me about Youth for Christ.
So Youth for Christ, it's a youth movement, I'd say, founded in the 40s after World War II. First full-time worker was Billy Graham, and the whole idea was just to bring hope to young people at the time. And of course, over the years, it has expanded. Had these big rallies and youth festivals and youth gatherings and all this amazing worship events. That's how it started. I got involved in 2003 actually in South Africa, where we joined a Youth for Christ team. It was a creative arts team, and we traveled. It was pretty nice, and in fact we came to the States that year in 2003 for the first time. So we were involved with that for about, in different capacities, for about 13 years, maybe 10, and then the others part-time, and we served in that capacity. So when I got hired to come and work here on Cape Cod, one of the things that I was supposed to do was to develop this outreach program for the youth in the community. And I think 2015, the our first year, it was an interesting time. It's a different culture. There's nothing like what I was used to in South Africa or in Cape Town, where I'm from. So all that to say, we started our first club, and I have a lot more to say, of course, about that. But we're still running, and it changed over the last couple of years. But that's pretty much how it started, and that's how I got involved with it here.
So it started at Living Hope at what year?
2017, I would say we officially got it going.
Okay, and you've been going since then, but COVID's messed up everything.
Yeah, COVID messed up everything, yep.
Tell me, now I know so that's a separate ministry from your church ministry. So other churches and other people can help you with this, right?
And yes, they can, and some of them do.
Okay.
And they come in for a season because everyone's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys across the Cape come out, help out for a couple of nights, or come and speak, or help out with a bigger event. Especially over the summer when we have a lot more events going.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. The vision of a ministry like that, because it's non-denominational, it's not owned by the church, although Living Hope really puts in most of the support to make it work, because they really have a heart for it. It's in a sense the extension of the youth ministry in a way, and they really invest a lot in that. But Faith from Faith AG in Hyannis, Sean is from there. He's the associate there. He's also the youth guy. He's involved sort of all the time with everything we do. We have a couple of guys from other churches that comes in now and then. So yeah, it works better if it's community based, and there are more people.
And how can people help you or contact you if they see this video and want to help out?
Oh yeah, a good place would be, let's do coffee. Let's reach out, and let's talk on the phone, because based on what's going on, we have regular meetings. Of course, we meet once a week, every Tuesday. Say from 6:30 till 8 we meet. That's our regular club night. But right throughout the week, it would either be one-on-ones based on the needs of the students. You know, they want to meet, they want to talk over phone, over Zoom, whatever. But how people can help is if we have a bigger event. Like now we're planning a camp, one of the first camps that we've been dreaming about in May, and we have a lot of volunteers that we need a lot of volunteers to help there. Sometimes if you just want to come and sit in on a Tuesday night, see what we do, see what club looks like, please come out and we'll put you up to volunteer somewhere. Of course you have to go through the screening process and all that, but there's always a need. If we have an event, somebody are not comfortable working directly with youth, but they're good at making food, they're good at playing games, they're good at helping, putting up a rig for sound, whatever the case might be. We always need help somewhere. Like this camp now, like I said, there's a big need for more hands to come and serve there over the weekend.
So tell us a little bit more about that camp. Where's it going to be? How long? When?
All right, so the camp's a little bit of a jump, but the camp is really, it's an outreach for more of the kids that we've been working with. So it's an extended 2-night outreach event, and we're doing it in Sandwich, actually, at Camp Linden. So it will be in May from the 13th until the 15th. Okay. And I hope really there is just to bring all the kids we work with. We plan to have 60. That's what we aim to have there, the amount of kids we aim to have there, and it will just be a great retreat. And a time for them to develop more relationships with the leaders who will become mentors to them, and just have an opportunity to respond to the gospel and have worship and fun and just fellowship.
So would you say you're mostly dealing with church kids, or are you dealing with kids you're just finding out around the neighborhood? You say, hey, come with us. How's that work out?
It's a good split. Okay. Living Hope, I am their youth pastor as well. We have a group of kids that are from the church because their parents are there and they attend church. Mm-hmm. So my responsibility is, of course, to them as well. But then there are kids from the community from different places on the Cape. They come to club and they attend, and most of them aren't saved. Okay. But we are intentional about it because that's outreach, right? That's awesome. So what we want to do is really give them an opportunity to come into an environment that's comfortable, where they hear the gospel presented in a fun way, but we don't compromise on that. But it also gives our kids that already made a decision an opportunity to engage with them and share their faith with them. And in that way, it's just a beautiful thing to see that that develop.
I've worked with different age people from to adults to all the way down to teens, and I for a while I was focused on college age kids, and I realized by college age they've made a lot of their bad decisions, a lot of their decisions, and where they're going to go, and getting them a little bit younger, and getting them focused and on a right path, on a good and godly path is. When they're younger, is just so much better. And so I appreciate what you're doing.
Yep, and about that, we have a target age, which is 11 to 19 year olds. So, because we know what you're saying is true, I have an 11-year-old son and I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I see what they get, the challenges they have and the friends that they have and what goes on in that world. So there's a big need for the gospel to go for that age as soon as we can and get them exposed to it, So as a dad and a youth leader, I'm just curious, what do you think is a hardship for kids today, maybe that you didn't deal with years in the past, anything like that? I think, of course, everyone says it. I believe it and I see it. Social media has really made things, it's good for us, but it's also bad, and I would say more bad. It makes things challenging, in other words, I see kids they get exposed to more than they should. It really impacts them, their entire mental health with all the things they get exposed to, how they are. That's a really tough one, the negative side of social media. I think also, of course, during the pandemic, what just happened there, I've seen a big spike in, and even with my own kids, and how the mental health got impacted. by just everything that went on and the screen time that they had to put things in, and being away from friends in their normal environment and that. So yeah, that's a difficulty. The social media thing, what this pandemic has done, I think it's just all the mental health situation with the depression and the anxiety with young people. It's a tough one. It's really difficult. It's real.
So it was going up at a steady incline, but it spiked with COVID.
It spiked big time,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, have you heard now in recent weeks, actually, we had a few suicides across Cape at schools. Just students that can't handle what's going on, and that's a clear indication that it's real.
Yeah.
So we've been praying for that a lot, and heart goes out for that. But it's a real thing, and we should just pray more in that direction for God to give wisdom.
Absolutely.
How to deal with students with that challenges.
We need God. Our teens need God, and we all do.
Yep.
So I would hope that anyone and many people listening might, who has a heart for the teens, might reach out to you and see what they can do during an event or what have you. Financially supporting, I suppose there's probably that need for that as well.
Always, yep.
Always, yeah.
Always that, yep.
So my son Sam actually went to an event or two that you were running at another church down the street here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he came out to the car and goes, "That guy Emelio was awesome."
Oh, really?
And I love his hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I guess you're known for having a lot of fun and having hair that not everyone else has.
The hair, right? Yeah, okay.
Is that a big topic that people?
Oh yeah, it's always it's part of who I am now.
Yeah.
I at times get, especially in the summer on the Cape, when that August month with all the humidity, I want to cut it off because it's really like walking with this beanie on my head every time. But yeah, it's part of who I am. I guess it's part of my personality. And the funny thing is, before I grew the afro, I had a shaved head. Literally like shaved, not even short hair, like shaved. I'll show you a photo if you ever want to see it.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll put it in the video, man.
You will?
Yeah.
I had a shaved head, and that was okay. At the time, it was trendy as well.
Yeah.
I loved to wear caps and hats and that type of thing because I was in a rock band. So I would, tour, and that was an easy way out. In 2008, I just started growing. It started off as a dare from a friend. We were on the airport, and it was like I didn't shave my hair, and he was like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're going an afro." I'm like, that's an idea. Just never stop. But all that to say, it's part of who I am now, and kids tend to think it's a fun thing and they like it. Yeah. And I'm like, if whatever gets the kids talking, well, I'll do that.
That's great.
Within the perimeters of what's allowed.
Of course. Yeah,
the hair is not that big a deal. It's
I just think it's a fun thing about you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right, so you said South Africa, Cape Town. Can you tell us more about? I've never been there.
You've never been to Cape Town? Wow, you're missing out.
Much northern in Africa. I was in Egypt, but I'm sure it was completely different.
Great. I haven't been to Egypt though. I'd love to go. Yeah. So, do you want to know about Cape Town?
Tell me all about it.
It is a beautiful place. Cape Town is a beautiful place. South Africa is a beautiful place. But I'm now being, Cape Town. There's 9 provinces. There are 9 provinces in South Africa. I'm from the Western Province, and my city, Cape Town, is the most southernest tip of Africa, right at the bottom where the 2 oceans meet, the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean. It meets right there. So it's pretty cool. The city has 4 million people. In the country, South Africa, we have 11 official languages.
What?
11 official languages. English is a compulsory language in school. So you have to do it, at least for us. So that's how you learn to speak English. So everyone speaks at least an average between 5 and 7 languages, which is your mother tongue and then English, for the most part. My province is like over 70% Christian. It's not that everyone's evangelical or anything. It's just they claim to be Christian. Mm-hmm. And then of course we have a breakup between Chinese and Muslim, and that would be the other bigger groups. The rest of the country, majority people group would be Zulu speaking, which is a tribal people. They're more up in the KZN region, which is KwaZulu-Natal, of course. The country, the climate is beautiful over summer. And There's just this melting pot of people and food and food and food. Very creative. The creative arts is a big thing. Everyone, lots of singing, musicians, and that's a big part of it, of our town. Our culture, and I know it's divided up in 4 people groups, and I don't know how much you know about the history of South Africa, but we came through an era called apartheid, which was what our government at the time imposed on the country. So it just really meant to keep people groups apart. And of course, it had some groups, of course, benefited more from that than others. But it was divided. The groups were divided into white, and this is an offensive word still, but it's really people of mixed descent, under which one I fall. They had another word for it at the time, and then of course black and Indian. Now, black isn't just black like you'd see in the US, it's tribal. So you have different cultures like Xhosa or Zulu, or different tribes that fall under black. And the country is still divided into people groups like that. So still, yeah. Okay. Well, institutional of apartheid's not there anymore, of course. It's for about 25 years now, not the case anymore. But people groups still identify as Xhosa and Zulu because that's their culture, or English, or of mixed descent, or white, or whatever. So that's still how the country is divided. But if you come there, you'll experience all the beauty of it. The food and what they have to offer, and how the culture celebrates life and all that. Okay. So yeah, that's just a little bit of where I'm from. And so it's this big melting pot.
What was it like for you growing up there? What was your family of origin?
Yeah. So like I said, we have mixed descent. We grew up. My dad, my childhood was a little rough, but we grew up in township where people would everything is a party. Everything you celebrate. Every birthday gets celebrated. Everything that's worth celebrating, people would make an effort and make it happen. You say, hey, it's Emilio's birthday today, or Jeff's just graduated from high school, or whatever the case might be. Everyone comes out. Whether there's money or not, they'll bring what they have in the cupboard, and we make a big feast of it. I'd like to celebrate. Very happy, a lot of joy, always fun, love singing, love music, love dancing. That's the culture. But all that to say, me growing up though, my dad was an alcoholic, so we had that side to what was going on in the house. His addiction got the best of him. And growing up as kids, we would always just remember that side of him not being the best. So I grew up with that, and in fact, a real angry teenager. We weren't saved. So all we had in the house was the abuse and the drunk dad, and my mom really had to keep things together for us. So we grew up in a township area. We spent at least a big part of my childhood in what they would call a shack. I don't know if you know it. It's like corrugated tin plate that they put together. If you see some of the videos in Africa, I can show you a couple of photos to show you what it was like. But that was the only place they could get at the time for us to live in, because my dad sold the house because of his addiction to some of the the mob guys in the community. So we had to go and find a place, and that's where we lived for at least 5 years. Wow. And that was a tough childhood for me, in this that I really didn't like my dad and for what he caused us. And we were 5 kids, and my mom was really struggling to care for us and take care for us. All that to say, I grew up being a teenager, that hurt and that hate with my dad. And you know what's the thing? This is actually something that's very big in our communities as well, where I come from. It's always the absent father model, where moms always have to be strong to take care of the family, because somehow the dads fell into an addiction of some sort and that. But I just happened to be one of those kids who came out of a house like that, right? But all that to say, when I think I turned maybe 16, 17, I was a really, really angry teenager, because there's just so much that I felt I didn't have, and I felt I needed more. And I was really talented and gifted, but the dad just never provided. And I came home one night, because they fought a lot in the house as well. There was always a fight of some sort. But I came home one afternoon on a Saturday, and the windows of the house was broken. And I went inside, and there was really just blood everywhere. And I was like, what's going on here? I spoke to the neighbors. But you remember that community we were in at the time was really ran by gangs. The guys who were in charge there make the decisions for how, and I never wanted to live there. I never wanted to be there. I didn't want to be part of it, wanted something else. But when I came home that Saturday, it was a game changer for me. And the guys said, well, you see all these gangsters outside had to break through the window to help your mom because your dad and your mom had a big fight. That day really assaulted her badly, with a knife, cut the stomach open, really hurt her badly, and rushed her to hospital. So in my head is my mom passed away, and it was a really tough time for me. I never saw my dad after that because the doctors made a case against him for attempted murder. And in those 2 weeks, actually, I got invited to go to a youth camp with friends, and that's why I got saved.
Wow.
Yeah, so God's got a hold of me. When I saw my dad, after that, my mom survived. She only passed away 2019. Thank God, I had good years with her.
Yeah.
My kids got to meet her. But in those 2 weeks, when he was on the run, and God was dealing with me, preparing me to show me the love of what a father's love. He was teaching me the love of Abba Father, because I never had it, and I was desiring that, So when I saw him for the first time, I don't know, I had a weird peace, because this was this Jesus thing that I had now, and I had to read the Bible. People were discipling me. I had mentors, and these guys just saw stuff in me which was like, what? You think that's me? That's why I learned to play music, and I learned to play in a band, and they told me, you have a gift, you have a talent. They pulled it out of me. These guys made time for me, and that's why I believe in discipleship so much.
Yeah.
All that to say, my dad passed away 3 months after that. And it was the hardest time for me because of all these, I still deal with a lot of those emotions. But I think the miracle is that God saved me just before that, so that he can teach me what the love of a dad is. And in the Word of God, and through all the discipleship and getting in prayer and all this stuff in church, and amazing men of God and women of God that came around us and just helped, I discovered Christ and who he is, and the love of Christ, and the love of Abba Father in my life. So my childhood was pretty much that. I maybe gave you a little more than you asked, but that's a big part of my childhood.
Amazing.
And how I accepted Christ, hence my reason for my love for young people and sharing the gospel with them, because I know that if nobody's going to reach out, or nobody's going to come and tell you, listen, there's more to what you are experiencing here, and the hurt and the depression and the anxiety and the confusion and the lies that everyone is telling you and the enemy is telling you, Jesus is there, and he's the hope of glory. He's the one that can change all of this around for you. I get excited for that, because I know that if they make that choice, that they can also have a turnaround like Emelio had.
Yeah.
That's the church. So
that's awesome.
That's pretty much,
so
that's my childhood.
Your passion comes out of Jesus saving you from
radically. Because you must understand that the communities, South Africa is amazing for vacation and to come to, but there are these communities everywhere in the world. So I'm sharing with you only because I just happened to grow up in one of those difficult communities. But those communities don't give you a lot of options as a teenager. It's either you join a gang, it's either you go to jail, it's either you become somebody that's going to function under some drug lord who's going to use you to sell drugs for them or do whatever the case may be. God protected me from not having to fall in any of those categories.
Yeah.
And he chose to use me to go across the world and go share the gospel. And that's why I'm so happy and full of joy, because I know what could have been.
Oh, yeah.
But God, but Jesus, because that's what he does when he saves you.
That's right.
The possibilities are endless. What he can do with your life if you're committed to him, it's amazing.
I love that. It could go one way,
yes,
but God. But God. I love that.
So that's all I can say about that. That's a big deal for me.
I love it. Well, that's where your joy comes from.
Yeah.
Where all of our joy really comes from as brothers
Amen.
and sisters in Christ.
Yep.
Knowing that God could have left us, but God, he did something different. That's
Amen.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, let's go in here and see where you run some youth ministry out of.
Yeah, so, hope the cleaning team came in with it.
that a big part of the move is? So, Cape Cod.
Yes.
What year did you move to Cape Cod?
January 14th, 2015.
Oh, know even the date. Okay,
Yes.
2015.
3 weeks before that massive blizzard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll not forget that one.
Was that an eye-opener? What did I do?
It was a shock. I said, really, Lord? Because coming here, we heard the Lord. And then being here and then seeing the blizzard, we were like, really, Lord? It was like, is this what it's going to be? Because Eric said, it's cold in the winters, dress warmly and all that. And then we were like, okay. We left Cape Town, I remember, because it's the middle of summer, the height of summer. Mm-hmm. And it was, 94 Fahrenheit maybe? And we arrived here at Boston Logan at -4.
Whoa.
So that was like a big shocker for us. And they said, oh, dress warmly, come with nice jackets and all that. And we were like, we don't get snow back in South Africa. So we had these, what we would think warm jackets, it was like, it's nicely padded. Mm-hmm. And when they opened the airport doors, like going out, it was like, whew, what is this? What? It was rough. It was hot.
So besides the freezing cold that can happen, do you like living on the Cape?
Yeah, I mean, the elements of the Cape that we got used to and that we like a lot. I like the fact that there's so many beautiful ponds here. I like we actually got used to the snow. We like the snow, not the stormy blizzardy side of it, but just the beauty of it and getting involved with it and sledding and all that. The kids got used to it. Nice. We love the Cape Cod community. It really is a second home for us. It's a beautiful place, and we love the people that we are friends with, and it's really nice. But we are homesick. We'll always be homesick.
Do you get to visit?
We year now. This is year 8, and we've been home twice. The first time we went home after 5 years when my mom passed away. That was 2019. That was a hard visit, very difficult visit. And then last Christmas we went home for the first time as sort of a vacation. So we went home twice in 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you feel a little more like a missionary here.
Well, that's always how we saw it, eh?
Okay.
Yeah, because our journey has always been saying yes to wherever God wanted to take us since I got saved. There was always a call in my life, and my wife for that matter, that we would always serve the nations. And as difficult as it can be at times, we've always felt that it's better to be in the will of the Lord than where you want to be, and because there's safety in that, right? So we in the will of God, and we just see our journey as missionaries, and so as our kids as well, because wherever God wants us to serve for a season, that's where we will go.
So we're driving all around Hyannis, West Main Street here, and do you have any favorite places you like to eat? Coffee places, lunch, dinner? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I've got a couple actually. A few coffee. I like to visit new. One of my favorite things is I like to visit new cafes and coffee shops, and I've done most of them on the Cape. And there's a new one that that's opened recently. It's GA Coffee. It's pretty nice. I like to, but favorite place is that, and then I love bike rides. Oh, that's one thing about the Cape that I really came to like. It's all these beautiful bike roads. I love doing that, and we like to do it.
So, is this more the back road stuff, or right on that old rail trail?
Well, I'll take the rail. I'll take the trails because I think it's pretty nice.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's relaxing, and it's a workout as well.
Nice.
And it's a nice way to see the Cape. It's one of my favorite things I've developed, doing that, and
Good. Speaking of favorite,
yes.
What is your favorite way to explain the gospel to someone in a kind of a concise manner?
A concise manner. Okay, because I was in mission school with Youth for Christ in South Africa, and one of the things that they use this method called 3-story evangelism. And I've sort of adopted that, when someone disciples you, certain things sticks with you. So 3-story evangelism is simply this, that everyone you meet, like Emelio meets Jeff, right? So everyone has a story. And then I have a story. I share briefly part of my story to you. And then, of course, there's God's story. So whenever I meet people, especially young people, I'd always keep that in mind. And my approach would be, it's relational, right? So I try to connect with them on, hey, tell me about you. What's your story? Because they have a lot to share with you. And they do, if they are comfortable, right? Yeah. And because of that, you have an opportunity to share your story. And in your story is always how you met Christ. And that's where God's story comes in. And then you can share God's story with them. What they do with that at that point is a different thing, but you get to share the gospel with them because of how you met Christ and what Christ did for you. And the whole idea that I find always as you talk to young people and you hear this story, or people for that matter, anyone, adults as well, they always have the struggle with their identity and their purpose and who am I and what am I supposed to be, what am I doing here and that. And I like to connect on that point, because what I do know is that God created us to be in relationship with Him, right? He created us to communicate with Him. He created us to be in fellowship with Him, and all that. But we do know that if we read in Genesis between 26 and 30, right there, it's clear that God has given the human the task of really ruling the world on His behalf, or partnering with Him in saying, hey, cultivate the land and create families, do beautiful things, make art, create things, do all of this. And it gave you a sense of significance and acceptance and even security, because that's how God created us to be in relationship, partner with Him, be out here and be my image bearers in the world, right? Yeah. Adam messed up, and because of that, we inherited that same condition. And this is how I would like to share God's story to people. We inherited that condition, and that sort of separated us from God, right? And of course, the only way through us getting back into that relationship that God wants us to be in is through His Son Jesus, right? And through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, we can get back to God and get back to the Father, into that relationship. And if we make a choice to accept Jesus by faith, and then we can. And kids struggle with feeling significant and accepted and secured because of that disconnect with God. So they try and find it in everything else. They will watch what you want them to watch to feel accepted. They'll drink, they will smoke, they will do anything because they need to fill that void of significance, security, and acceptance. John 10:10 talks about, Jesus says, I came to give you life and give it in abundance. And that abundant life is really that full relationship with God that you get through Him as the Son of God. But if they accept Jesus, they will really have that full life, and they will get that significance, that security, and that acceptance, that that void that's there, that will be restored because of that choice that they make. Yeah. And I think that idea opens up a really good conversation for many scriptures and a lot that goes on in the Word. Of course, you can have formal Bible studies and all that, but that's a good conversation.
Oh, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, so
the 3 stories method, I've never heard of that.
3-story evangelism. Yeah, it's not a thing, but it's a thing.
Oh, it makes total sense.
It's not a thing, but it's a thing.
Your story, my story, and how God has worked through me and wants to work through you.
But the idea is that it should be a conversation. People get uncomfortable, I find, when you start just taking it one directional about how my faith is the best and you should and you shouldn't. Then I get these opportunities. There will be opportunities to preach the gospel from one point. But if you want to develop a relationship with youth, have a conversation with them about the gospel, right, and show interest in where they are at and what's going on in their lives, because there's a lot. And if you just create the right trust and platform for that, you'll discover how much they'll allow you to share about your faith and about God's story.
Is that how you got introduced to Jesus? What was it?
Not actually. I did not get introduced to that. That was just part of that method I just shared with you. Is just a method that I learned over the years with Youth for Christ. But I got saved when I got invited to the camp during that time with my dad's incident with my mom. I literally just went to a youth camp that friends said, hey, you need to get out of here. Come with us. We're going to go to a youth camp, and it was the Full Gospel, I remember, and come and hang out with us for the weekend, and it's a really cool thing. And I wasn't entirely opposed to the Christian faith at the time. I was what you would probably think a religious because, church is part of our community, but making a decision to follow God, I never made that decision. But God met me on that camp, man. I was bawling my eyes out for hours.
Wow.
During that Sunday morning preaching. John 3:16 was preached that morning. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Whoever believes shall not perish and have everlasting life. And I was like, do you have any idea how messed up things are in my world? God can cover that.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal for me. So that's how I got saved. God just met me, like picked me up in my neck and shake me around a little bit and give me big hugs. I came back and I never looked back. It was never a perfect road. It was hard.
Yeah.
But that was a decision, and forward I could just see how God just lined up things for my life.
Wonderful.
When I said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Nice. So okay, something lighthearted here. How about are you into any movies, TV shows, book series?
Yeah. I generally like to, other than if it's books for study, but I like to read biographies of guys and, guys that had a good journey or story. Or funny enough, the other day at there's so many actors and musicians out there with cool stories to tell. So like Jacob Astorius, who's a bass player, I'd like to, what was his journey like? It's not a Christian book, but it's a good story just to kind of journey through the guy's life. Or actors guys who really just cut through it all. And I like business books. I like the Robert T. Kiyosaki series, and then of course any spiritual books that I need to use for study, and authors and that. So I like reading, and then of course movies. Yeah, I'm not a massive movie fan, but I like to watch something that's good documentary stuff. And then my wife is big in action stuff, so we would go and watch a good, appropriate action movie now and then.
Can you find one of those?
That's hard to say. Hey, nowadays you don't know anymore. It's really tough. Even with the kids, you have to go online and I don't know. I don't think it was as bad 15 years ago.
No,
it's pretty bad now.
I don't think so.
So we try and spend our time with just hanging out or whatever.
And do you play or watch any sports?
Well, I do biking more. I played sports on school, actually. Rugby, not football, rugby.
Yeah, the real football.
Real football,
beat people up type of football.
Yeah, if somebody said, what is it? If rugby was easy, they would have called it football.
I like it.
I played a bit of that on school. I actually did long distance running. Right now, I can't do that to save my life. But and I played soccer, a bit of everything. That thing that you have to do because it's there. And I was fairly okay. I think I was better in the running, the long distance running. Got a little more attention in that, but I'm not great. But yeah, right now I like to watch a good football game, American football, because my son is fully American in everything, and he's an athlete actually.
Nice.
He's very good at it. So I watch with him. And we watch the big games. My daughter's not interested in sports. It's more on the arty side and singing and that.
Great.
So yeah.
So you probably have to get to do a lot of teaching in your youth ministry. Do you ever preach?
Yeah, I get an opportunity now and then. Eric would put me on the pulpit. Like now I'm in the schedule. He's taking a sabbatical, so I have a couple of dates that he scheduled me in, and in the past he did.
Does that make you excited or nervous?
Yeah, it's the funny thing. I always get nervous. I always get nervous when I have to do that. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I do it, and for the most part, it goes okay.
It goes okay.
Yeah, I get good.
People don't stand up and leave. Right?
Yeah, I got some people responding to the gospel, which is good,
beautiful.
and I like that. So yeah, I prepare well for that type of thing. I always find it. I don't know why, because I could every week I have to prepare for youth or talks or teaching, whatever.
Yeah.
But I always take it seriously, and I put in a lot of effort to make sure I do the work and do the reading and, go through all the right prep. I recently started to go to seminary, South African Theological Seminary, so I got some really better tips, because my training is not seminary as much as it's ministry school. Mm-hmm. So now I can, I'm learning way better techniques and things that I think I'll use moving forward. Depends what God's plan is for that. Yeah. So yeah. So I enjoy it, I guess, but I get nervous.
I get nervous too. I've only done it 5 or 6 times, but
really?
I used to get nervous teaching just teenagers. They're a little scarier actually sometimes. They are scary,
but I find I don't know. Well, I think until you ask them, but I think I communicate easier with them, because you can make fun and you can add a couple of things in, use an object lesson or whatever the case may be. But I having to take the pulpit when Eric uses.
Oh yeah, well. That's a hard one to follow.
Yeah,
sure.
but he's great at it. He gives such a lot of tools. You can always run things by him and ideas, and God gives insights, of course, when you study hard, and you get cool insights on things, and all the commentaries that he gave me, and I have access to a lot of good resources because of him. And he's really a scholar of the word, as you know. So I almost want to ask him questions that he don't know, but it's not possible. It always feels like I'm going to ask him this. But my point is, there's an opportunity to prepare well if you get the opportunity to preach, and I use that a lot. Yeah.
Well, my crack research department, it's just actually click on your Facebook account, shows that you actually play instruments and produce music. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I do. I do play. I'm mainly known as a bass player. Okay. But I play acoustic guitar, and I over the years I've played in a couple of bands in South Africa more, and we toured and did a couple of albums and that. Oh. But until I came to Cape Cod, I haven't done any of that other than playing in church. And over the COVID season, I committed myself to use my time to invest more in that. So I built a little home studio situation there, and got help from friends to show me how to do whatever it is that I wanted to do, and started taking some of the ideas that I always had in my head and start producing them and writing it. So released some 2 singles.
And your wife sings on?
My wife is the worship leader and the singer in the family, as much as I'm not the best singer.
Well, how about if you were to have a day or 2, and you by yourself, or you and your wife, you and the kids, would you head off Cape? What would you do? You're going to drive somewhere.
Right now it's always focused on what the kids would want to do. Yeah. So it's either we would go to Sky Zone, or we would go do a family-related thing. The other day we tried to go and check out a museum in Boston, and kids thought that was boring. But it needs to be fun for the kids. Yeah. My wife and I always says, okay, well, this is the season, and when that's over, we can be young again. I don't know.
It could be about us again.
And then we can go do things that we think we'd appreciate. When we were, before the kids, we went camping. We went camping, we went overnight, we did hiking, with a lot of adventurous stuff. But when the kids were there, it was just like, okay. And coming to the States, of course, they stationed us. Yeah. Yeah. So
it's about the kids. There's no time for hobbies.
It's pretty much what we do now.
Understood.
And even with the hobbies that I like music, it's like, are you sitting there again? Can you please come and get up? So I don't know. That's why I get up early, so I have an hour for myself to read and do devotion and work out, whatever. It's we're raising kids.
I understand.
That's the hobby.
I understand. All right. Well, tell me. I think this might be the last question here. Do you have any God stories? Something where God showed up in your life, in your ministry, in an unexpected way, and just we can give God the glory for something that He's done in your life.
Oh, wow. Sounds like a cliche, but it's pretty much I guess my whole life, it's a testimony of God's faithfulness and grace, because I know what could have been and what it's not. But let's say how God confirmed things for us, how God provided for us. Let's say we were in YFC in South Africa. I worked for them for, like I said, for maybe 10 years while I was sort of contracting, or what you call it, doing other things as on the side, because those jobs never paid well. And when the season came to a close, I said to my wife, hey, we need to figure out what we're going to do. It's been, 10, 12 years at the time. But the season of doing this is coming to a close. We really need to trust God to guide us. And part of our job in Cape Town YFC was to run a volunteer program. So we had close to 400 students for the years that we did it, coming through the program. So like interns, and we would place them in schools and that. It was really good. We loved it. But it came to a close, and we said, maybe what we can do while we wait for the Lord to give us the next steps is, why don't we go volunteer somewhere, like in Germany or somewhere in Austria, like wherever the volunteers come from, and until God confirms things. And we said, yeah, that's like a cool idea. Maybe, and then I was in Johannesburg one morning. We said that maybe 6 months before this incident happened. And I said, I woke up at 5 and I just had the sense I had to email Eric because 2003, when we were YFC, we came to the States and we were on this team that traveled across the US, and we were here for 9 months based in Nashville. So we traveled to Cape Cod, and that's how we met Eric. I don't think you asked me that question.
No,
how I got here, which is actually an important part of how we got here.
Yeah.
But that's the God part. And we stayed in touch with Eric for a couple of years, and we saw him once or twice in South Africa because he has a mission there, the Muyeni mission. And then this morning I was in Joburg, and 5 o'clock I just found I had to write Eric an email. Remember, we don't have a relationship like that at the time. The only time we really worked together was maybe 15 years ago at the time, when we were on Cape Cod with that traveling team in 2003. Wow. That's how we landed on Cape Cod. And Eric just got here with the pastor, Daryl, who was the lead pastor, and he used us for a week to do stuff in camps and that. So we were like a visiting team that they would use to reach out, that type of thing. And that's how we met. And then we just stayed in touch. But this particular morning in 2013, June, I remember, and I woke up and I was like, write Eric an email and tell him how you feel in your plans, that you need to wrap up ministry here and you guys thinking of just going out and taking a year off. Eric responded within 7 hours because of the time difference, and I thought it would take 7 weeks, right? Yeah. Pastors don't respond that quick. And he says, hey, you know what, Emelio, this is crazy. I just spoke to the Lord this morning in my devotion, and I said to him, I've been at Living Hope for 10 years, and I really think that it's time for me to get some help here and let God, please Lord, guide. And when I came to the office, your email came through. And my email was very informal. Hey, bro, how are you? What's happening? And just so you know, me and Claudine and I were thinking of wrapping it up here, where we are at in the next year. And we're thinking of traveling out and volunteer somewhere. And he says, the rest is history. So he asked the Lord, I responded, I just wrote out of how I felt, and I wrote, and then the rest is history. 2 months later, we came out for what we call an interview. And this is year 8 we year. So God really speaks to us in times that we don't expect it. And I think that's a God moment. There's so much.
Yeah, there's so much. God's always see. He is always at work.
Yeah,
He's always at work, and when we ask and we tap into that, He shows us what He's doing.
Yep, amen. Yeah.
And you get to be part of that. Eric was a part of that, and I just love. I think it's encouraging for people to hear God's stories.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen when we don't talk, and I'm going to think of 20 stories I can tell you.
Sure.
That's what's going to happen.
We'll do another interview.
Yeah.